Reading with your kids.
Hola, niho, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, monomuli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcasts. We have two great guests for you today. Denise Caesar will be joining us to celebrate moments in motion with love. But first, Aditi Wardhan Singh is returning to the show to celebrate Sparkling Me. Before we invite Aditi into the studio, we want to let you know that we think that you are a pretty sparkling person. And we would love to connect with you on social media. So many places to do it. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids. At Reading With Your Kids on Instagram. Our Instagram account is really growing by leaps and bounds. Our biggest presence on social media is over at Twitter, and you can connect with us there at Jedley Magic. We have a wonderful Pinterest page. It's Reading With Your Kids. And rumor has it, actually, it's my niece. She says, you gotta get on TikTok. And I'm going to get on TikTok, but I don't know what to do. So what we'd love for you to do is to go to readingwithyourkids.com. At the top of the button, well, after you sign up for our free newsletter, at the top of the page, you're going to see a contact button. Please use that contact button to send us a note. I would love to hear what we're doing right. I'd love to hear what you think we could do better. I would really especially love to hear who you think we should have on the show. But right now, I really need you to let me know what I should do on TikTok. I'm counting on you. Please give us a hand. Joining us right now from the Richmond area in the wonderful state of Virginia. Our guest is returning to the podcast to celebrate her beautiful Sparkling Me children's books. Please welcome back to the show, Aditi Wardhan Singh. Hey, Aditi, how are you?
I'm good, Jed. I'm so excited to be doing this again with you.
I'm excited to have you back on. Sparkling Me sounds like like a great title for a children's book.
Yeah, the series has really inspired me as a parent to, sparkle every day. I was just thinking today morning, isn't it exciting that every morning we decide to be a new version of ourselves? We can choose to be a different me. And I think that's what the books are trying to teach kids as well.
I think that is a great lesson. It's important for kids to love themselves and to understand that, they may not be perfect, but they're special just for who they are. But I also I think it is a great message to kids to say every day you can take a step forward. You can try to be better. You can work harder at something that you're really passionate about.
Yes, definitely. So the books are, so far I have 3 and I have an activity book. So the first one talks about skin color and how it's our actions that make us who we are, which is how our skin sparkles. The second one is Sparkles of Joy, which is a celebration of diversity. It talks about how Christmas, Diwali, and Hanukkah are similar and yet different. And the third book is Small or Tall, We Sparkle After All, which talks about how it's not how we look, which is how tall or short we are, but how we can build kindness and, deal with people who may comment on how we look and things like that.
I started performing for kids back in 1983, and I remember, and my wife oftentimes teases me because I start most shows with especially back then, with this message: you are a very special person. Doesn't matter how tall you are, how short you are, what color your skin is, what language you speak. You are special. And here we are in 2022, and we still need to remind kids of this. Why do you think that this isn't something that we just know instinctively?
Because I think something that we continuously forget is we are all human. And as a child grows into a person, the natural questions come up. And if those questions are not answered, those subtle, I wouldn't call it prejudices, but those notions stay with you. So it's kind of like, when you think that, maybe someone who puts bindi definitely has to be Hindu, there's no other religion they could be. If you don't ask the questions, you don't get answers. Small at all, We Sparkle After All is actually based on my daughter. She had a similar experience just where she, on her birthday night, she said, I don't know why I'm not taller today. I really thought I would be, because a lot of people have always commented on how short she is. But all the books are based on science, because I wanted to make sure that when children read the book, they get that notion.
I want to get into more about what you're talking about, the science, and I think that's wonderful, and I think it's so important for us to share with our kids. But you mentioned something that a lot of people may not know what you're referring to. You mentioned a bindi. So can you tell me a little bit about this custom that many of us associate automatically with India?
I will not say that I know everything, but what I do know I can share is that bindi's beauty is part of beautification. Like, it's part of like a jewelry we added. But scientifically, in olden times, in Hindu traditions, they say when you apply a little bit of turmeric or a little bit of kumkum, it's a red powder that is usually used for prayers. If you apply it, it's on your in between your eyebrows, it gives a bit of cooling effect. Even sandalwood, if you grate it and you make a paste out of it and you apply it, all of these are actually helping center you. So it is actually good for your overall health. That is part of Ayurveda, and I'm not really very well versed in it. But the bindi is mostly just, it now represents just someone being a little bit more prettier on, those festive days.
To think that there is a scientific basis for it. So let's talk a little bit more about just kind of helping our kids understand the science of some of the things that they're encountering. I am vertically challenged myself. I've kind of gotten over the fact, I'm getting used to the fact that I'm shorter than most people. But I think it really would have helped, to have somebody sit down with me and say, wow, it's kind of a genetic thing. And yes, exactly. Everybody else in your family is 6'4", but, you just got your mom's genes and,
right.
That happens. Tell me, you mentioned that there are 3 books in the Sparkling Me series at the moment. Are you planning on adding additional books to the series?
There are 4 books, actually. The 4th is an activity book, which is about helping kids understand the diversity of the world and about empowering their self-identity, because it talks a lot about culture and things like that. But yes, the next book that's coming up is about belonging and how, like Indian American kids, a lot of times, like I used to feel, this is a little bit about me, I think, that when I used to go to India or when I went anywhere else, you kind of feel misplaced. You're not sure whether, are you Indian, are you American, So that's what the book is going to be about.
Interesting. I've shared this on the podcast in the past, and there was a legendary overnight host here in Boston by the name of Larry Glick. And he was a funny guy, and he just loved talking to different people. And people would oftentimes call up and say, Larry, I'm an Italian American, I'm an Irish American, I'm an Indian American. And he'd always stop them. And he would say, no, Aditi, you are an American of Indian descent. And really emphasizing that right now here in the United States, we are all Americans first, because we need to come together, to work together to make the world and this country live up to the promise and the hope that we all have for it.
That's beautiful. I'm actually almost teary because I grew up in Kuwait. I don't know if you remember this from our last conversation. And then I went to India for my education. but I always felt misplaced. I still call myself the girl from nowhere. It's only after I became a parent and I had kids, and finally I became an American citizen, yay. That I felt belonging, and I cried in the courtroom when they were giving us the oath that we take. And I was so overwhelmed with joy and a feeling of belonging. And I tell my kids constantly, because that's what a lot of parents do. And I'm being a little harsh here, where they say, oh, you're half Indian, you're half American. And I say, no, you're 100% American, you're 100% Indian. You're American with your heritage being Indian. You need to understand that. You need to be proud of both countries.
What a beautiful, beautiful future we'll have if our kids can be in a school and just celebrate the fact that, yes, we are Americans and our grandparents came from different places. And let me tell you about the stuff that my grandfather taught me, and then you're going to tell me about the stuff your grandparents taught you. And what a party we're going to have.
Oh my goodness, you're actually telling me my story for Sparkles of Joy. That's what happens. The kids get together for a play date and they tell each other that, you know what, I'm Christian and this is what I do for Christmas. And then he says, one child is from a mixed family. So he says, my mom is from India, my dad is from America. And another one says, oh, but you know what, I'm Jewish. And they're all living in America. So that's what the story is about.
That's wonderful. Everybody loves celebrations, and especially in the wintertime, we should celebrate the whole month of December. We have Hanukkah, we have Diwali, we have Christmas, we have Kwanzaa. There's probably a couple more that I'm forgetting, but just celebrate the whole month. Find ways to celebrate the whole year.
There are celebrations. I will share a funny story. My son told his teacher that they were having a conversation about culture and how many holidays fall between November and December, from Dussehra to Kwanzaa, I believe, and then of course comes New Year. So my son was laughing and telling his teacher that, but if we started celebrating all the Hindu festivals, we would probably be having holidays every second day. Because of course Indian culture is so diverse within itself that right now there is on January 13th and 14th, there are 4 to 5 different cultures that celebrate the harvest festival. It's called different names. They do different things, but it celebrates the harvest season where the sun is coming back and, warmth is coming back, and that's what they celebrate.
I can get behind that celebration. It is 11 degrees here in Boston this morning, and boy, what's the name of that holiday? I want to start shouting it out.
Okay, so around 13th to 17th, there are 4 celebrations that happen within Indian culture. Yeah. So it's Lohri by Punjabis, Makar Sankranti by Maharashtrians, and then you have Pongal for Tamilians they celebrate that. And there's Khichdi that is around where my parents live, which is like Madhya Pradesh.
Okay, well, I'm going to celebrate them all and see if we can get some sun in here. Hey, Aditi, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about you and more about the Sparkling Me series.
Yes, you can visit my website, which is raisingworldchildren.com, which is what I'm doing, and I'm hoping that we're all doing this together. I do have one more book coming out this month, which is for adults who might be interested in an Indo-American perspective on stories. It's a collection of short stories called Within, Short Stories for the Evolving Multicultural Women. And my books are the Sparkling Me children's books, which are all available via raisingworldchildren.com.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking about celebrations, speaking about how wonderful we are, and speaking about the Sparkling Me series. And we've been talking with our guest, Aditi Wardhan Singh. Hey, my friend, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Jay. This is amazing and gorgeous.
Before we invite our next guest in the studio, we want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Skylar Strauss, our intern from Emerson College, for editing today's podcast. She's edited a bunch in the past too. Wonderfully talented student. We are so happy to have her on the team. Thanks a lot, Skylar. Join us right now from the beautiful island of Staten Island in New York City. Our guest today is here to celebrate her debut picture book. It's called Moments in Motion with Love. Please welcome to the show, Denise Caesar. Hey, Denise, how are you?
Hi, Jedley. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to have this moment with you tonight.
I'm delighted to have you here. We've had a lovely conversation before we started recording, talking about last names and pronunciations. And also, Denise shared with me that she is a speech and language pathologist. And I have mentioned this on the podcast a number of times. I am very grateful to speech and language pathologists in my life. When I was a kid, I had an incredibly challenging speech disorder and speech impediment, and it comes out every once in a while. But when I was in kindergarten, first and second grade, I had a hard time getting a sentence out. And if it wasn't for some really talented therapists, I wouldn't be doing a podcast.
Wow. I know it's meant for us to be together today because of what you just said. When you hear my story, you'll understand why.
So let's jump right into that story.
Okay, let's do that. So maybe we should, well, I am a speech language pathologist, but in 2006, I was in a car accident and I lost my voice. So I have a condition called spasmodic dysphonia. So I'm a speech pathologist with a speech disorder. So that brings me to telling you about how this book came to be and how that not having a voice for 5 years and having a disability made me so much closer and connected with my students more than ever. Mm-hmm. So as I tell you the journey of the book, I actually started a company, T for everybody to a T, which is a swimwear to empower women. I made swimming pool cover-ups. But the title of the book, Moments in Motion with Love, that was my tagline for my company. So it's just like a 360 moment that happened and it came to be. So not only did I not have a voice, then I went through a lot of faith and kind of trying to get through it. And I got my voice back in 2011. I go for Botox injections every 4 months in order to speak. So, having a disability, so I didn't realize I had a disability back then, but having a disability doesn't mean you don't just keep moving forward. So now, fast forward to writing the book, there's the whole story behind this book.
Wow. That is incredible to think that, you have this accident, you lost your voice, your life, I'm sure, is turned, if not upside down, at least, spinning you around, but you don't let it get you down. You go out and you start a swimwear company. You go from being a speech and language pathologist to starting a swimwear company. I wouldn't have saw that coming. I'm sure you didn't either.
So I could tell you how that did happen. Because, when you get more, different avenues of the brain start mm-hmm. popping up when you're silent or if something else changes, different senses kick in. So I have a son who's 22 now, but he was 6 at the time, and he his formative years, he heard my voice. So I'm thankful to God for that. But from 6 until he was 11, I had no voice. But he understood every word I said. So I had to keep continuing to go on for him. So that's really part of it. But the creativeness that came out of me, we would go to the swim club quick, and I'd be like, why do I have to cover up all the time? So I made this thing, a little makeshift thing, and people always loved it. So I went, I think I have a prototype here. And so my company, it took a long time to develop. But like I said, my tagline, because of swimming, Moments in Motion with Love, started right there in 2018. Fast forward to 2021, now I have this book that came out of me. Do you want to know how I wrote this book?
Absolutely, yeah.
So what happened? I'm a speech language pathologist, and New York City shut down March 2020. Just shut down. And we, as speech pathologists, were immediately, I had to go remote, not just remote, but live, mm-hmm. 8 sessions a day, live with the students right away. No waiting, the teachers had a different thing, but speech therapy was on. And thank goodness, because we were like their lifeboat for that moment. But in May, I was seeing the disconnect, and we're still dealing with this disconnect. So I know this book has a very important purpose in this world, not just because I wrote it, because of how it came to me. So I was online with the students, and they were crying. Some of them, they were disappointed. They didn't know how to deal with this. There were silver linings in it, though, because I was seeing them in their house and in their environment. Well, one night in May, I went to sleep praying to figure out what to do for them, because I really, really felt so disheartened. I woke up in the middle of the night with this book in me.
So tell us a little bit about the story we'll read.
Yeah. So it's Moments in Motion with Love. It's a book that takes you on a journey of stopping and appreciating nature. And I want the children to know how important they are in this world, and also how important the world is. So that's what the book really sets forth. And there is also, I'm an educator, so at the back of it, I put curriculum, because I decided that I needed to develop it into really helping the social emotional health right now is very, very crucial. And it is so important for us to really get to the bottom of this, because the children are really a loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that we talk about here are the conversations families can have while reading a particular book with their kid. What kind of conversations do you think families can have as they're reading Moments in Motion with Love?
So I'm going to show you. Can I show you a page? I know people can't see me; they can hear me. But so I start out by saying to all the beautiful children. So it's kind of like an homage to them, because they are our future, and without them, this planet is not going to be going forward. So all the beautiful children, hoping this story will let you know how precious you are in this world, because they're losing sight of that. But my book, as we go along, and one of my favorite pages is I start out with butterfly moments, because a butterfly is very symbolic to me. It's the trademark and the symbol for my company is the butterfly. So butterfly moments. So imagine there's a butterfly on your shoulder. Feel it. Now, what I would like the children to do when they hear that, first of all, has a butterfly actually ever landed on your shoulder? Or if it did, how would you really feel in that moment? So taking time to just be, because when that happens, when this all happened to all of us, and it's still happening, we have to know how to be right now, because we don't know. We know what happened already, and we have to move from that. We have to just deal with right now. And I think that this book will help parents, because I know adults that read this book daily, believe it or not, because it centers them. It is almost a book. It's poetry, emotion. It's poetry. And I affirm the kids at the back of the book. It's an affirmation that I say to them, but I also gave them a poem to say to themselves every day. I affirm them throughout the pages, but then at the end there's a poem that it's called Believe. And I want them to say it to themselves every day, because they really need to feel good about what's going on around them and within them.
I love the inspiration. I love that idea of encouraging kids to think about a butterfly landing on their shoulder. I had an experience, Denise, in Costa Rica in the rainforest when this big, huge, beautiful blue butterfly landed on my shoulder, and I didn't know it was there at first, and then someone just kind of tapped me on the other shoulder, and I looked, and it was amazing, and it's just a wonderful moment. So I absolutely know what it's like to be in that moment. Hey, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about Moments in Motion with Love and find out more about Denise Caesar.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I do have a website. It's DeniseCaesar.com. My name is DeniseCaesar.com. I have a website. You can, Jedley, go and see all of my love ambassadors. And if you want to know what that means, I have love ambassadors. Anyone who has read the book and wants to share their message, they're on the website. Why I think it's important for children to spread the message when they read this book. is because it's how it empowers them. They can empower others.
Well, we've had a really fun time helping spread the message about moments in motion with love, and we've been speaking with the author, Denise Caesar. Hey, Denise, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jedley. It was a pleasure, and it was a moment for sure.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Stefan Kalinsky. He'll be here to celebrate fairy tales retold. It's a wonderful conversation. You don't want to miss it. Hey, we want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Chris, I want to start by thanking our guest, Aditi Wardhan Singh. Please be sure to check out her Sparkling Me series. Also want to thank Denise Caesar. Please be sure to check out Moments in Motion with Love. Hey, my team deserves a big, big thank you. Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady. A special thank you to Skylar Strauss for editing this episode of the show. Frank Guerrillos is the newest member of the team. Also want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much in advance for going to readingwithyourkids.com, clicking on that contact button at the top of the page, and let me know what in the world you want to see me do on TikTok. I have not a clue. I need your help. Please, please, please. And also, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.